Well, another weekend, and welcome, folks. We try to be as relevant as we can, and this weekend we have, as you know by now, the Burke family proclaiming the word. Thank you, Veronica. Thanks, Harvey. Thank you, Cecilia. Their dad, St Kevin's people would know, is Paul, and he's the chairman of our Finance Committee, and Mum Laura is an accountant. And what's the gospel partly about? Well, you've just heard, it's about paying taxes. The first reading too is connected with taxation in this way, that we hear about the great King Cyrus, who through his sense of justice helps to repatriate the exiled people of God, Israelites. He even builds a temple back in their homeland, and presumably houses for them to stay in. All of that requires tax, doesn't it? Let's just focus for a minute or two, though, on the gospel. Remember that Jesus has come to Jerusalem for the last time before his crucifixion, and the opposition is getting hotter and hotter. Now, isn't it fascinating that so often two groups of people who would normally be strongly opposed to one another come together in order to fight a common enemy? It happens in politics, it happens in religion, it happens in business, happens in family, happens in neighbourhood, doesn't it? On this occasion we're told, the Herodians and the Pharisees. Now, the Herodians are called Herodians because of their allegiance to King Herod and his successors, the Roman emperors. Remember, it was Herod who had John the Baptist's head cut off. They, through their allegiance to the Roman occupation, have positions of authority and wealth, whereas the Pharisees are strongly opposed to the occupying Romans, and they believe that paying the Roman tax is bad because it's placing the Roman emperor on a similar level as our God. And the Israelites say there is only one leader, only one emperor, and that is our one and only God. So these two opposing groups against their common enemy fight against their common enemy, Jesus. Historian Josephus says that the taxation issue was a hot topic at that particular time of the gospel, because just a year or so before that there'd been a revolution against the Romans to try and stop having to pay the Roman tax. The Romans had responded by many crucifixions around the streets, leaving the bodies to either die or just to rot, just to remind the people that taxation was compulsory, not a matter of whether you liked it or not to do it. So the question of taxation would have created quite a crowd as soon as the question was asked to Jesus. And it's a trap, says the gospel. How's it a trap? Well, no matter how Jesus was going to answer the question, he was going to be doomed. If he said, yes, pay tax, the Roman tax, then most of the people who were listening, the poor, who were his strong supporters, would have walked away and said, oh, he's really just a Roman stooge. If he'd said, no, don't bother about paying the taxes, the Herodians would have gone, holy dooly, and immediately reported him to the Roman authorities because he was stirring up a revolution, and they would arrest him there and then. So it appeared to be a no-win situation for Jesus. However, Jesus very shrewdly goes on the offensive, and he sets his own trap for them. Be aware, folks, that at this time there were two sets of coin in currency. One had the image of the emperor on the coin, and that was the coin that had to be paid for the Roman tax. But the majority of coins had no engraving on it at all, following the law of the Torah. So Jesus, on the offensive, says, you got a coin. He doesn't have any coins. They say, oh yeah, we've got a coin. And he says, ta-da, whose image? Caesar's. How truly Jewish followers are these guys, huh? Jesus rightly calls them out as hypocrites. But he does say, yes, you've got to pay taxes. But to God as well as the government of the day. Now, we've had, haven't we, 4 weekends of reflecting on the reign of God. So I believe it's not too big a jump for us to think and realise that Jesus is saying an alternative world is possible. An alternative world where people don't use violence and skullduggery and power and lies to get their own way. And once again, Jesus invites us to be part of that truth, that peace, that inclusiveness that is a feature of the reign of God. Folks, I've spoken for too long already probably. However, I feel a bit dissatisfied that we haven't brought it down to 2020 ideas necessary for us. So please get a sense of the contemporary questions that are around in all this business of paying taxes. I'm not calling on us not to pay taxes. Taxes are part of the life of our lives. But we've just had a federal budget, haven't we? And there's some good things in the federal budget. But there are, from my point of view, some obvious gaps. And you will probably, from your point of view, see some gaps also. What gaps do I see? Well, some of them are, we're promised that aged care will get more money. Well, that could be a total waste of money if the regulator isn't given teeth. At the moment, the regulator is pretty inhibited in what they are able to do. There is little or no money for public housing, and what money was available for refugee housing has been taken away completely. And yet there is a subsidy for a company that's selling weapons to the hotspot of the Middle East, one of the hotspots, the Yemen. Figure it all out, folks. What's your thoughts about how the taxation is looking at the moment? And what are you going to do about it? There'll never be a government that can fulfil all our needs and all the Catholic social teaching. However, in our consciences we have to figure out what we need to do about it and what we can do about it. St Kevin's people have heard me often enough quoting Anna Burke, former Member of Parliament, saying to me years ago, make sure your parishioners keep sending emails. Emails do work for parliamentarians. So folks, what are we going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? I do encourage you to reflect on the budget, reflect on the gospel, and if you feel moved, please write some emails. Thank you.